I was halfway through a presentation in a glass-walled conference room in Chicago when my phone vibrated with a familiar alert, motion-detected sunroom. I glanced down, expecting a delivery or maybe a neighbor's cat wandering too close to the sensor. When I opened the feed, the world inside the room dissolved. Marla Locke, my mother, was standing in the center of my Bellevue home. Beside her was my father, Harrison, and a contractor holding a laser measurer as if my house belonged to them. This is a story created by the author of the Revenge Amber channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. Through the speaker, my mother's voice carried that sharp, clipped brightness she reserved for moments when she believed she was doing something heroic. Jace needs this room for his new production suite. Remove the wall. It will give him the light he needs for filming. The contractor cleared his throat. I cannot begin demolition without the homeowner's written approval. My mother waved a hand. Raven will sign when she gets back. She always does what is best for the family. My father nodded in quiet agreement. I stared at the screen. My hydroponic garden, my refuge. The one thing I built entirely for myself was being measured for destruction while I sat 1,000 miles away pretending to care about profit projections. I locked my phone, leaned back, and felt something inside me cool and harden. I did not walk out of the meeting. I waited, silent, steady, letting the heat fade so a sharper clarity could settle into place. When the presentation ended, I gathered my things. My colleague, Jenna, whispered, "Everything okay? Everything is about to be," I said. In the hallway, I reopened the security feed long enough to watch my mother's hand glide across the glass of my sunroom like she was already erasing me. She said, "Once this becomes Jace's studio, his channel will finally take off." I closed the app. I opened my travel portal. The next flight from O'Hare to Seattle-Tacoma left in 2 hours. One-way ticket, no return date. I was not flying home for a conversation. I was flying home for a reckoning. While the system processed my booking, a quiet thought surfaced. If you are reading or listening to this, tell me where you are joining from. I want to know who else understands what it feels like to be rewritten inside your own life. When the confirmation email pinged, I felt a clean, decisive click inside my chest. My mother was half right. I would not make a scene. I would make an ending. The plane lifted off the runway, and I waited for the seatbelt sign to fade before pulling out my laptop. My hands were steady, almost calm, as if my body had finally caught up to the decision my mind made in that conference room. I opened an encrypted folder titled The Ledger, 6 years, a file I had avoided for months. Rows of transactions stared back at me, each one a small incision I had once convinced myself did not hurt. I clicked on the earliest entry. $42,000, I whispered. Music accelerator program that he quit after 2 weeks. Then another, $31,500 for emergency rent. Twice. $18,200 for equipment he resold. $56,000 for an NFT project he said would change the family legacy. A flight attendant passing by paused when she heard me muttering numbers. "Everything all right?" "Ma'am." I nodded. "Yes. I am just counting the cost of a mistake." The truth was sharper. These were not mistakes. These were years of training, conditioning, small requests that became expectations, expectations that became obligations. My mother always framed it as loyalty, as my responsibility as the steady one. My father called it supporting Jace's dreams. I had carried that dream like a splintered beam across my shoulders, as the total crossed $212,800. A memory surfaced me standing in my parents' kitchen, telling my mother I was burned out and needed a break from helping everyone. She put a hand on my arm and said, "Raven, your emotions make things harder for all of us. Jace needs you strong. Try not to fall apart when he is working so hard to succeed." That sentence had shaped 6 years of my life. I finally felt the bruise of it. I checked my voicemail. 3 messages from Ari Winters. My brother's fiancé. Her voice trembled through each one. Raven, call me. I found something. It is serious. You need to know. I texted her I saw the footage. I am landing soon. Do not tell them I am coming. A reply came instantly. Thank God. Meet me outside arrivals. It is worse than you think. I closed my eyes as the plane hummed beneath me, the ledger glowing on the screen like a map of every boundary I had failed to hold. This time, I was coming home to redraw them. I parked the rental car 3 blocks from my house, the engine ticking softly as it cooled. The neighborhood looked the same as when I left, but something in me was no longer willing to fit back into its shape. I kept both hands on the steering wheel until I felt my pulse settle. The ledger file was still open on my laptop beside me. $212,800, 6 years, every line a reminder of how easily I had been rewritten into the role of financier, fixer, emotional shock absorber. A soft vibration came from my phone, a text from Ari. I am here when you are ready. I parked behind the grocery store. They do not know I left. I typed back, stay hidden. I will handle the first move alone. Her response came quickly. Be careful. They have been different this week. Jace is unpredictable. Unpredictable was gentle. Jace had always been a storm. Everyone else was expected to clean up after. I leaned my head back and let a breath fall out of me. For a moment, an old memory flashed me at 16, standing in the hallway while my mother told my father, Raven is strong. She can manage without help. Jace cannot. That single sentence had assigned our destinies. Mine endurance, his entitlement. I whispered to no one. I am done carrying both. The security feed on my phone showed figures moving inside my home, the silhouettes of strangers weaving between ring lights. My mother's voice drifted through faintly as she instructed someone where to place a tripod. I locked the screen. When I opened the car door, the cold air hit my face, sharp enough to anchor me. My steps were steady as I walked toward the house. I was not returning as the daughter who always said yes. I was returning as the one who finally meant no. By the time I reached my driveway, the noise bleeding from my house felt like a pulse. Bass thumped against the windows. Laughter spilled through the open front door. Someone shouted instructions about lighting angles. It sounded less like a home and more like a set built overnight by people who had never planned to clean up their mess. Jace's bright blue luxury SUV sat sideways across the driveway, blocking half the street. My father's aging vehicle was parked on the lawn, tires sinking into soil I had tended myself. A group of young men in hoodies carried boxes of equipment past the hydrangeas, stepping on them without a glance. I stepped onto the walkway just as my mother, Marla, appeared in the doorway. She held a clipboard like it was a royal decree. Her eyes flicked over me, confusion flashing before irritation settled in. Raven, what are you doing here? You were not supposed to be back until next week. I changed my plans. I said, This is not a good time, she said sharply. We are preparing for Jace's big reveal. His audience expects quality. Everything must be perfect. Behind her, 2 strangers hauled my grandmother's restored reading chair toward the yard. One of them asked, Where do you want this old thing? Ma'am, put it outside, Marla said. It does not match the new layout. I stepped forward. That chair is not leaving this house. She frowned. Raven, do not start. We need space. Your garden room will be repurposed. It is better for the family. The contractor said you needed the homeowner's approval. She waved me off. You always sign eventually. You understand how much Jace needs this? My father appeared behind her, offering a weary smile. Raven, let us get through today. We can talk later. Later, I repeated. After you demolish my home. A beat of silence fell. Then my mother said, It is just a wall. You are too attached to things that do not matter. Jace is finally building a career. You should be proud. I moved past them, stepping into my own living room. Beanbag chairs had replaced my furniture. Ring lights towered where my bookshelves once stood. A neon sign reading Locke Legacy Studios glowed in the corner. A young woman with a headset pointed me out to someone off camera. Jace. You have a situation. Jace turned toward me, phone in hand, smile stretched wide for an invisible audience. Raven perfect timing. Want to say hello to the stream, I looked at him, then at the cameras, then back at my family standing behind me. No, I said. I am here for something else. Jace swung his phone toward me, his grin stretched so wide it looked painful. Everyone, this is my sister, Raven Locke. She flew in just to support the launch. Say hi, Raven. The screen flashed with rolling comments, a river of usernames cheering him on. I stepped out of frame. I am not here to say hi, I said, and I am not here to support the launch. Jace blinked, the smile freezing. Raven, come on, play along. We are live. I met his eyes. Good. Then they can hear all of this. My mother moved quickly, closing the distance between us. Raven, not now. We talked about this. No, I said. You talked. I was not part of the conversation. My father's voice was low. Warning. Raven, calm down. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. The room shifted, the easy party buzz cracking like glass under pressure. Jace laughed nervously. She is joking, guys. She is dramatic like that. I am not joking. I lifted the folder so the nearest camera caught it. This is a record of every dollar I have given you for 6 years. $212,800, all drained from me to fund whatever fantasy you were chasing that month. The comment stream exploded across Jace's screen. Surprised emojis, accusations, disbelief. Jace hissed, "Turn it off. Raven, seriously." I raised my voice. No, let them watch. I opened the first page and read aloud. $42,000 for a music accelerator you abandoned. $31,500 for emergency rent. $18,200 for gear you sold within weeks. $56,000 for an NFT scheme that you claimed would make the family rich. Jace lunged toward me, but one of his camera crew blocked him accidentally while adjusting a tripod. He stumbled, nearly dropping his phone. My mother grabbed my arm. You are humiliating him. Stop this right now. I pulled free. You are humiliated because it is public. But you were never embarrassed taking the money in private. My father stepped in front of a camera. End the stream. Jace. Jace fumbled with his phone. I am trying. A headset-wearing assistant called out. Backup cam is still live. Jace's eyes widened in panic. Why is everything still recording? Because you set it to multi-stream, someone muttered. I faced the nearest lens. For everyone watching this house is mine. My family broke in while I was out of state. They planned to demolish my sunroom to build a studio for him, without permission, without concern, without a thought for the person actually paying the bills. My mother's voice cracked. Oh, for heaven's sake, Raven, it is just a garden. It is the only place in my life you did not take from me. I turned to her, and you were ready to tear it down for more content. Jace's composure snapped. Why are you doing this? You owe me support. I am the face of this family. No, I said. You are the expense. A collective gasp rippled through the room. I held up the ledger again. 6 years of my life poured into your disasters, and while I was in Chicago today, you measured my walls for demolition. That ends now. Jace lowered his phone. Turn the cameras off. All of them. But the damage was already done. The comments continued pouring in on the screens mounted behind him, lines of shock, outrage, and betrayal reflecting everything I had carried silently for years. I closed the folder softly. This is the last time you take anything from me. Jace stared at me, breathing hard, sweat beading on his forehead. From behind him, a quiet voice spoke. "Raven," someone said gently. "There is more they need to know." I turned. Ari Winters stood in the doorway, her expression steady, a manila envelope clutched in her hands. Ari Winters stepped fully into the room, the manila envelope pressed against her chest as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Her voice was soft but certain. "Raven is not the only one he has taken from." Jace spun toward her. "Ari, not now. We talked about this. I promised I would not let you ruin anyone else," she said. My mother's head jerked between them. "Ari, do not get involved in this nonsense. Jace is under a lot of pressure." Ari laughed once, the sound thin and breaking. "Pressure. You have no idea what he has done." She held the envelope out to me. Her hand trembled only when I touched it. Inside was a contract, thick, official, stamped. I unfolded it slowly. My name, Raven Locke, sat neatly on the co-signer line. Only it wasn't my handwriting. It was an imitation that leaned too hard on the loops, the signature of someone who believed confidence could hide incompetence. I lifted the page. "Ari, what is this for?" "The luxury SUV," she said. "The one he parked sideways in your driveway. He told everyone he bought it outright with earnings from his channel. But he leased it for $74,500, and he forged your name to get approved." My father made a strangled sound. "Jace, tell me this is not real. It is nothing." Jace snapped. "Just a shortcut. I was going to pay it off once the brand took off." My mother stepped beside him like a shield. "He is building a career. Raven, if you truly cared about your brother, you would not attack him when he is finally succeeding." Ari shook her head. "He is not succeeding. He is sinking, and he keeps grabbing onto every one of you to stay afloat." She reached into the envelope again and pulled out 2 more sheets of paper, each one a glowing indictment. "These," she said quietly, "are credit reports." My mother stiffened. "But we do not have any new credit cards." "You do," Ari said. 3 of them. Opened 6 months ago. Totaling $55,800. All maxed out. All unpaid. My father's phone buzzed in his pocket. He looked down at the screen. His face drained of color. "A fraud alert," he whispered. "It says, new accounts in my name." My mother shook her head violently. "No, no, no. This is wrong. Someone stole our information." "Someone did," Ari said. "He did." Jace held up both hands, his voice rising. "I was going to fix it once my crypto course launched. We were going to have money coming in. Real money. You all need to stop panicking over details." "Details," I repeated. "Identity theft is not a detail." He pointed at me like I was the threat. "You always overreact. You always make everything harder." Ari stepped toward him. "You used me too. Jace, you told me you loved me, and the whole time you were stealing from the family I was about to join." Jace's face twisted. "You should have stayed loyal." "I am loyal," Ari said. "Just not to a lie." My mother's voice cracked open. "Raven, stop this. Do not let outsiders tear our family apart." I folded the forged contract carefully. "I did not tear this family apart." I said. "He did." Jace's mouth opened, then closed, his breath stuttering. Behind him, the backup camera light blinked steady and merciless. Every word had been streamed. The room felt tilted, as if the floor had shifted beneath all of us and only Jace refused to notice. He jabbed a finger toward Ari. "Stop feeding them lies. You are doing this because you are angry I canceled the engagement party." Ari's expression did not even flicker. "I am doing this because you forged someone's identity. 3 times. My father turned to me with a raw, shaking voice. "Raven, call the police. We need officers here. Now." My mother grabbed his arm. "Harrison, no. We can handle this privately. Families fix things. Families, he repeated, staring at the forged signature on the lease contract. Do not steal $55,800 from their own parents. I already had my phone in my hand. I dialed, Bellevue Police Department, I said when the dispatcher answered. Identity theft, trespassing, fraud. The suspect is on site. Jace lunged toward me. Raven, hang up, right now. I stepped back, my voice steady. This ends today. 19 minutes later, 2 officers entered the house. Their presence cut through the chaos like clean edges. One of them approached me. You reported identity theft. Yes, I said, handing over the folder. The forged lease, the credit reports, the security footage, and a copy of the live stream he did not manage to shut down. The officer skimmed the documents with practiced efficiency, then looked at Jace. Sir, I need to ask you some questions. Jace forced a laugh. This is a misunderstanding. You know how families are? Someone overreacted. My mother nodded quickly. Exactly. We can settle this. The officer raised a hand. Ma'am, these are federal-level offenses. Forgery and identity theft are not family matters. My father closed his eyes as if the truth had finally landed with its full weight. Jace took a step back. Then another. Look, I can pay it all off. I have plans. I have momentum. You have multiple victims, the officer said. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. My mother screamed, a sound so sharp it cut through everything. Do not touch him. Take her instead. She is the one making this happen. The officer kept his voice calm. Ma'am, step aside. Jace's face crumpled as the cuffs locked around his wrists. Raven, please. You cannot let them take me. You are my sister. I met his eyes. You stopped being my brother when you used my name to build your lies. He shook his head wildly as the officers guided him toward the door. I just needed time once the channel blew up. I would have fixed everything, Ari whispered. He never would have. My mother sobbed against my father's chest, her voice breaking. Raven did this. She destroyed us. My father said nothing. He only watched the officers lead his son outside, the weight of denial finally splitting inside him. When the door closed behind them, a strange quiet settled. Not peace, not yet. Just the sound of something long overdue finally happening. The moment the door shut behind the officers, my mother rounded on me, her face streaked with tears and fury. This is your fault. Raven, you pushed for this. You wanted him gone. I kept my voice even. I wanted the truth exposed. My father stepped forward, shaking. We will lose everything because of those credit cards. The bank will come after us. We cannot pay $55,800. You are blaming the wrong person, I said. My mother jabbed a trembling finger at me. You called the police. You destroyed your brother's future. He destroyed his own future the moment he forged my signature. I replied. And he dragged you both down with him while you cheered. My mother's voice broke. He is our son. We had to protect him. I looked at her without anger, only clarity. You did not protect him. You enabled him until he believed consequences were optional. My father's voice rose. We could have fixed this if you had given us time. Families work together. Families do not break into their daughter's home to tear down walls for someone who has never lifted one, I said. And since we are no longer working together, I am issuing a formal trespass notice. If either of you return to this house without permission, you will be arrested. My mother recoiled. You cannot do that. We are your parents. You were. I corrected. Now you are 2 people who violated my home. Silence stretched, tight and fragile. I opened the front door. It is time to go. My father waited for me to soften, the way I always had. But that version of me did not live here anymore. Slowly, they stepped outside. I closed the door behind them and engaged the deadbolt. The click echoed through the house like the end of a long, bitter argument. No one argued back. 3 months passed before I let anyone back into the house. When I finally did, it was Ari Winters and my Aunt Celine, the only 2 people who had stood on solid ground while everything else collapsed. We sat at my kitchen table with mugs of tea brewed from the peppermint leaves I had grown myself. Ari traced the rim of her cup, gathering herself. I moved out completely, she said. Jace kept calling from the detention center, but I blocked him. I could not keep pretending he would change. You made the right choice, I said. Ari nodded, then reached into her bag. There is something you need to see. I found it on his laptop before I returned the keys. She handed me a printed document. The top line read, Personal Loan Application, $20,000. My name was typed neatly on the borrower line. My breath tightened. He was preparing another one. Ari's voice dropped. He had already filled half the form. He saved it as Phase 2. Celine let out a slow exhale. That boy did not just take advantage. He built plans. He did. Ari said. He believed everyone in his life existed to sponsor him. I folded the paper, feeling no shock, only confirmation. He would have kept going. None of them would have stopped him. They still will not, Celine added gently. Your mother told the extended family that you sabotaged Jace. They are insisting you ruined their stability. I stirred my tea once, letting the leaves settle. If blaming me helps them survive the mess they created, they can have it. Ari studied my face. Does it bother you? No, I said. Not anymore. The garden pumps hummed softly through the wall, a steady pulse of something that belonged entirely to me. Ari reached across the table, her hand warm on mine. Peace looks good on you. Raven, it feels earned, I said. No one argued. Later that afternoon, after Ari and Celine left, I walked toward the sunroom. The hydroponic columns glowed softly, the scent of mint and basil drifting through the warm air. It was the one place in the house untouched by Jace's chaos, the only space my family had not managed to repurpose or diminish. On the small workbench sat an unopened envelope with my parents' handwriting on the front. It had arrived 2 days earlier, forwarded from my old Chicago address. I picked it up, feeling its weight. Celine had said gently, You do not owe them a response. Raven, not anymore. I agreed. Still, I opened it. Inside was a single page. My mother's writing filled the top half, my father's the bottom. They claimed they had acted out of love. They insisted they were misunderstood. They ended with a plea that I restore the family bond by helping them with the remaining debts from Jace's crimes. I set the letter on the bench and whispered, You still do not see me. You only see what I can pay. I folded the page once and dropped it into the compost bin beside the tomato vines. Paper crumpled softly against the soil and dead leaves. Behind me, Ari reappeared in the doorway, having forgotten her scarf. She watched as I closed the bin lid. That felt final, she said. It was needed. I replied. Ari stepped closer. You know, people listening to this might need to hear what you just did. That letting go is not cruelty. It is survival. I met her gaze. If anyone out there recognizes this feeling, if you are listening from somewhere far away or somewhere close, let me know where you are hearing this from. Maybe it helps to know you are not alone. She smiled, gentle and proud. You sound steady. I am, I said. The garden pumps hummed again, a rhythmic pulse of life I had built with my own hands. I lifted a pair of pruning shears and clipped a small yellowing leaf from a stem clean. Precise, necessary. As it fell into my palm, I understood that this was what the last months had been leading toward. Not revenge, not triumph, growth. I placed the leaf in the compost beside the letter, closed the bin, and let the silence settle around me. For the first time in my life, the quiet felt like mine.